and to for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Mayor Williams,
Roll.
I'd just like to recognize that today is Passover for those in our community of the Jewish faith. Okay.
Thank you, Ben. Roll call, please.
Mayor Williams,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Goins. Here. Councilmember Bovair.
Here.
Councilmember Koss.
Here.
Councilmember Warner.
Here.
The Attorney Garganese.
Here.
Interim City Manager Fuhrer.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we're going to move on to approval of our agenda, the minutes, our agenda from regular meetings of April 8th, 2020. Councilwoman Koss.
Yes, I'd like to take the two items that are in the consent agenda, move item 6-1 to City Business 9-4, and item 6-2 to City Business 9-5. And with those amendments, motion to approve.
Second.
We got a motion from Councilwoman Koss with changes. We got a second from Deputy Mayor Goins. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously. Okay, we're going to move on to our minutes from our regular meeting of March 11th, 2020.
Mayor Williams, I'd like to make a motion to approve with one amendment. It's just a typo, I believe, on page 5, paragraph 1, sentence 1. It should read cold case unit rather than code case unit.
Thank you, ma'am.
Motion to approve.
We got a motion from Councilwoman Koss,
Second.
second from Councilwoman Warner. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? It passes unanimously. Okay, awards and presentation, we have none. Anyone for delegation or any call-ins or,
We haven't
That's
had, no, we haven't had any, sir.
okay. We're gonna move on to reports and advisory boards. Administrative services?
Oh, I know we're sitting on a turn. No.
Okay. Chief Lamb?
Thank you, Mayor. Matt asked me to just give you a brief overview of where we're at as Emergency Management Director with the COVID-19 across the state and locally here in the city of Cocoa. Currently, we have 14,747 positive cases in our state. There's 296 deaths. 98 of those cases are here in Brevard County. 6 are non-residents. There's 26 out of the county that have been hospitalized with 2 deaths, and there's currently 7 cases here in the city of Cocoa. We previously went from 1, now we're at 7 cases. So with that being said, you know, we're starting to see, we saw somewhat of a small trend going downwards in the number of positive cases in the last couple of days, which is a good thing. If anybody's been following the reports from the University of Pennsylvania and all, they've actually moved the trend to where it's closer now, where we're going to see that peak earlier than we were later. So that can be a good thing, because that means we're actually going to see it sooner, which means we can start the recovery efforts a lot sooner than later and start getting maybe hopefully back to some normalcy. So, but again, all that is, you know, presumptive. There's a lot of things going on that cause that scale to change from day to day. So, but we're still being very mindful of that.
Is that April 21st?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The upside is we're still receiving equipment on a daily basis that we've continued to be in need for. This week we received some tympanic thermometers that we can use to start doing temperature checks and all, where the individual does not have to be right on top of the patient or source that they're using to take a temperature on. We're starting to see more of the N95 mask, things like that starting to come in, so those things are coming in quite often. I will say my hat's off to our facilities director, Gary Palmer. He has been very resourceful and innovative in helping us look each and every day. I'm almost for sure he sleeps with a laptop in his lap, but he has really went outside the box like the rest of us in helping us to find a lot of the needed equipment and trying to get it here and expedite some of those things. So as a whole, I'd like to say that I really feel confident in the director's abilities to come together as a team and what we have done to look out both for the safety of our employees and for the citizens as a whole to try and do our part to stop the spread. So I'd really like to say that, we are seeing an end to this, but I think we've got a long road to hoe on moving forward and where we're at in this. But I think the city's in a good position as far as taking care of the employees and also taking care of the citizens in their best interest. So that shows a great effort on both the council and all the city employees and how well we're all working together and doing our part to ensure the safety of everyone who visits our area. So,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Chief Cantaloupe.
No report at this time. Pretty much status quo as we were the last meeting.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Brian, Public Works. Back there, Finance. Jack, Utilities. Okay. Human Development. Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Singer,
No report.
Ms. Shealy,
No report.
Mr. City Attorney.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Ms. City Manager, Matt Fuhrer.
I have a few items here. I just wanted to add on to, in case you were wondering about the calls for service related to, say, police and fire or public safety resources. For fire, the trend since at least beginning of April has trended slightly down compared to our prior year's calls for service. And then in the police department, there is certainly a downward trend in the calls for service that we're receiving. And so we'll continue to monitor that throughout the duration of the event, as well as any increases in certain call types. I think some of you have seen the news reports related to folks being contained in their homes for long durations of time. So we'll continue to report those numbers to you. We did receive one e-comment, and it was under the reports portion of the agenda for today, and that was received from Anastasia Hawkins from the Playhouse. And I'll go ahead and just read this comment in. Greetings from the historic Cocoa Village Playhouse. We hope everyone in our City of Cocoa family is staying healthy. Since we last saw you, our productions have been postponed, ticket sales have stopped, and any income is strictly on a donation basis. We've applied for financial assistance through the Small Business Administration and the Paycheck Protection Program that is part of the federal stimulus package. We continue to pay full-time salaried employees and those part-time employees who are absolutely essential to sustain our operation. This is a monthly cost of $44,575. To date, we have issued $11,000 in refunds. Our income from March 17th to date is $785. We hope that this will be approved for federal assistance. We are asking patrons to please accept gift certificates and attend a future production when we are able to reschedule with secure dates. As many of you know, our theater reaches beyond the performing arts and engages our volunteers in various community service projects with each production. During this time, our costume department volunteers under the direction of Daniel Hill, our costume designer, have been very busy sewing and providing washable face masks for over 333 individuals within 19 organizations, ranging from Health First to Publix, as well as the City of Cocoa. Thank you, council members, for everything you are doing to keep our city and community safe during this time of crisis. And she also forwarded me that e-comment through email as well, and was requesting some guidance on the closures that have previously been approved by City Council to the May 11th date, where City Council had ceased all public and private events as well as public meetings with the exception of City Council meetings. And so she was seeking direction on that. I looked, at this time, or since that date, there's been a Safer at Home order issued that extends to April 30th at this point in time. And there's no additional extension or guidance from the CDC on those social gatherings at this time. If you recall that at that meeting when that was discussed, we had decided that it would be brought back at the April 22nd meeting for further discussion. I think she's just looking for some guidance at this point due to her scheduling of programs. And I know coming up, they have the shows that they've delayed, but also I think there was a concert that they may try to put on with the band only and stream to an audience. But I think she just needs some guidance as far as if she can work on scheduling that. It would be my recommendation that she continue to plan for that, knowing that in the event that there is an extension of time by the governor or recommendation by the CDC, that City Council would have to act on that guidance. And so I can reach back out to her and let her know that, so that she's not going all in with the planning and setting expectations until at least that April 22nd meeting.
I'm in agreement with that. And I don't know about the rest of you.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine, Matt.
Did you
Okay.
hear that, Councilman Bover? Okay.
Councilman Bover, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
No report.
Okay, the next item, we had received a request from one of the tenants. The city is a landlord, from one of the tenants at the Porsche House related to the governor's issuance of the Safer at Home order and their inability to conduct their business. They were seeking some assistance to either waive or reduce their rent for the period of the Safer at Home order. And just for City Council's information, there's currently actually 4 tenants. One of them uses the Civic Center as well, and that's St. Mark's. You have HCVA MS, Historic Cocoa Village Main Street, Jackson Private Wealth Management, and Anello Consulting, all within the Porsche House. I have their monthly rent amounts, and that includes the common area maintenance fee as well as their actual monthly rent. And so I can go through those with you if you'd like. Anello Consulting, their total is $328.14. Jackson Private Wealth Management, that is $323.95. And then for the second room, it's $409.20. Historic Cocoa Village Main Street, they have the lease for $1. So I don't think that taking any action related to theirs makes any sense, because that's for the annual. And then St. Mark's, they also lease space in the Civic Center in that smaller room for some of their classroom programming, which they're not currently conducting, and that's a total of $660 a month.
You're saying they want us to waive the fees or just?
Yeah, seek some sort of assistance in the agreements. There's also a provision for late fees. You could consider waiving the late fees, the rent in its entirety, or providing a reduction. I would recommend doing that consistent with the governor's order.
Yeah. I could see waiving the late fees, but then I think personally, we should just hold back on any payments, continue that because they might get some government assistance or some federal dollars. You see what I'm saying? And then, and if they get those monies, then of course, for their rent and so forth and so on, then certainly they could pay those. But as far as any late fees or anything like that, I could see waiving those and just kind of holding back on anything right now until we see if there's any funding they get and then go from there. That's my personal take.
Mayor, I have a comment when you have a second.
I've got a
Yes, sir,
comment.
go ahead.
Okay, Matt, that's the first I heard about this request. I mean, it's a landlord-tenant relationship. I frankly would like an opportunity to discuss those requests with you before the city council takes any action on this item. And we can bring that back at another meeting. But I'd like to understand the request a little bit more detail. And, you know, again, we have landlord-tenant relationship with written lease agreements with these tenants.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yes, and we will have another council meeting prior to this, the conclusion of this month. So we can discuss that, Anthony, and we can bring something back for city council specific related to the change in their agreement.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Mayor, I would also like to point out that those are really below market rental rates, and that one of those firms has reached out in advertising, I know, to my neighborhood, and uses the cachet of being in the Porsche house to generate business. So let's also consider that. I mean, it's really below market. Would you say?
Samantha can speak to the determination of those rental amounts and the cost
Yeah.
per square foot that they determined, but
Yeah, well, the city attorney is
Okay,
going to...
that's another conversation.
Yeah, the city attorney is going to get with them, so we'll just kind of go from there on that agreement.
okay.
Okay, and
You all have in front of you there's a letter from the Space Coast TPO. I also sent it out in an email in advance, Councilman Bover, so you should have it as well. It is the Space Coast TPO seeking the city's approval to support a grant, a build grant for the double tracking of the Florida East Coast Railroad, essentially from Michigan Avenue north out of the city limits. They just need that letter of support so they can include it in their packet that I believe is due early May.
and then also, you can see on the second page, that'll show you the benefits of this double track. And this was proposed, I think, was it last year they applied for a grant, I guess?
Yeah.
It was denied.
Florida East Coast was the
Yeah.
applicant, I believe, and they were denied, and this time they're taking it up through the Space Coast TPO with various partners providing letters of support, and they will be responsible to provide matching funds in the amount of $238,666.
And that was a unanimous vote on the Space Coast TPO, which I sat on and supported this, so.
Okay, I'm in support.
Just wanted to ask, so this expands, does it take any more property? Will we be,
The improvements would be done within their existing right-of-way.
Yeah, there was dual tracks on there before,
okay.
and then they eliminated one set of tracks years ago, and it was a single track.
So just seeking support from council, we can prepare it to return to the TPO for their application.
Yeah.
I'm in support.
Councilman Bover, are you in support of that request?
Are you in support of the request for the Space Coast TPO?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Yes, I am.
okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, and then the final item I have is just to update everyone on the census. It's still going on, even though we're in the midst of a pandemic. As of April 5th, the response rate in Brevard County is 49.3%, which means we have a ways to go yet, but we are trending above the Florida response rate of 43.6%. The national response rate is 45.1, so anything our council, residents, staff can do to encourage those folks that are currently at home to take that census, take their time to participate. It's very short. I think you do it in less than 5 minutes in most cases. So we really want to continue to encourage our residents, especially in the greater Brevard community, to continue to fill those out.
And that will leave a lot of money on the table for our nonprofits that are out there.
For 10-plus years.
Yeah.
So, and that's the conclusion of my report. Just want to continue to thank all of our employees who are working on a daily basis to keep us safe and still perform our daily functions, as well as the healthcare community that's right there on the front lines taking care of all of us. So I just want to extend a thank you.
Thank you, sir. And then Councilman Bover, you have any reports or?
No report, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Goins.
Was there is there a deadline for the census? Did they ever come up with a month or a time frame?
No, they have, well, April 1st was Census Day. That was just to really promote and encourage it. It depends on the response rate. So originally, they were going to do about mid-April and start sending out enumerators. But that may get extended because of COVID. They can't send out the enumerators right now. So they have talked about extending that deadline, so.
Okay. And as far as I know we did the closed on the parks last week. Are we going to do, or have we done any media outlets to let the media know that we've done that? It was a great response actually from a lot of people who I thought would be very unhappy. But have we done anything as far as Florida Today or Space Coast Daily or anything?
Yeah,
like that?
I mean, we send them our updates regularly, so they have all the updates, which includes the park closures.
So they haven't posted them yet, though.
I can send it out again.
Okay, thank you. That's all I really had. Again, I'd like to thank of all of our employees and our first responders. I know it's a lot going on, and I believe they're doing an awesome job working from home. I know it's different working from home, but thank you again. Appreciate it. So that's all I had.
Councilwoman Cox.
I was going to say, we might want to go, the park closures, we might want to include that in the daily report that comes out from the county.
It's in there.
It is?
There's a link.
Says,
It
oh,
went-
there's a link.
They change that
Okay.
every day, and we did, when the park closures took place, it was that report, and
Okay.
then we changed that base, so right now we just have a link to our page, which has all the information on it.
Okay, good.
Okay.
And it looks like different municipalities are choosing to list it in different ways.
Yeah, you can
Some
put
listing
whatever,
everything versus,
some had put that in there
Just
and just don't
links.
change it. So we change it based on the day and what information we have.
okay. Okay, so referring back to Chief Lamb's report and, 14,747 cases today in Florida, 296 deaths, 98 in Brevard, 2 deaths in Brevard. We're still looking at an exponential growth rate until the 21st. So that would put us at our peak then at, next week this time. We've doubled since last week. So next week we would be at 30,000, the week after 60,000 approximately at our peak, which that's way down from what, the original projections. So we have been we've been successful in our efforts. So all this staying at home and all the stress that comes along with it, it is showing some results. I've also been checking with the Agency for Healthcare Administration, Florida. We have increased our bed capacity by 100 beds just this last week. Not sure in terms of ICU. I think it's like 68 for the county. So I think we're pretty close. And we've got a couple weeks, so I know everybody's working on that. So citizens should also have more confidence in those results. Although, as you said, the worst is yet to come. And speaking of the worst, I'm wondering if we don't, I spoke with Matt yesterday about increasing police presence just during that time. And I'm not talking about police interaction, but just having more visibility on the streets. Because, I mean, just the kind of, the sense of this thing growing and also there being a lot of youth having time on their hands. I hate to see anybody getting into trouble. They don't need to. But just a higher presence. I'm wondering if we couldn't just put more cars out, particularly during that week where we're peaking. And then the other thing I want to talk about, which is good news. So as we talked about, emergency as phases, well, it's almost like we need to be thinking about what's going on right now, and then thinking about what's going on 2 weeks from now, thinking about 3 months from now, and thinking about weeks from now. It was really helpful to sit in on the International City Managers Association webcast yesterday, talking about the CARE Act and what resources are coming down the chute for us. And I sent that this morning to Matt and to all of my fellow council persons. I hope you'll get a chance to look at the slide deck, because there are a lot of opportunities here. And I think it's going to be really important for us to position ourselves to be able to leverage those. They have, and they've got a cheat sheet, the 10 things you need to be doing now. Of course, tracking any lost revenues, that's going to be really big. But number one is organize a task force to coordinate local needs, resources, and messaging. So in as much as I know we're all really consumed with thinking about the emergency now, we really need to get this one on our radar screens. And I believe that we need to bring in some help in doing this. I've already spoken with Matt about a budget suggestion, some sort of emergency / resiliency / sustainability type position, but to either consider that or some sort of consulting that can actually look at and identify and start to work with the directors to position ourselves to take advantage of those grant opportunities. A lot of this money doesn't even require matching funds. So I just can't stress enough the opportunities here. It's certainly the biggest opportunity in my lifetime, to be able to really be able to recreate ourselves, try to tie in the resiliency measures. And we have a community that is going to be particularly affected by this pandemic. And just if you started to watch the demographics on this thing, it seems to be hitting really hard on the African American community, particularly on men. And as I mentioned to you the other day, there seems to be some connection with the hypertension that seems to make you really vulnerable. So I mentioned that because as a part of going after these dollars, it's going to be really important to make our competing arguments for them and to talk about resiliency. And that's why I think that it would be a really good idea for us to think right now about bringing in some additional expertise on this. I know we've got a grant writer, but I think they're primarily concerned with the finance end of it. And I know from talking with John in the past that it's really been up to the directors to identify and go after these grants. And my sense is that the directors have their hands full with the emergency itself. I don't see this going away anytime soon. Italy had 15% of its population exposed. It takes 60% exposure to have herd immunity. We are not free and clear of this pandemic until we reach herd immunity or we have some sort of vaccine. So thinking in the long term, thinking about recreating ourselves after this, I'd like to throw that out there. I'd like staff to come back with some recommendations, and I'd like some support from council to guide them that way.
Is that it? Councilwoman Warner?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. I just got a couple things. Just want to thank the staff for all the hard work they've been doing, especially those individuals that I see out on the streets every day. They're continuing to do what they do and getting a lot of stuff knocked out. I really do appreciate that. I know these are tough times, but we're just asking everyone to hang in there. And then also with reference to the census, if we can push this out as much as we can, because it's so important. I know this COVID-19 have kind of taken over, and a lot of folks kind of backed off of the census, but we really need to focus on getting the numbers up. I mean, we're trending well. We just need to do a lot better than what we're doing. So the more we can put it out there, the better off we are. And that's basically it for me. So we're going to go ahead and move on to our, we don't have nothing on the consent agenda, no public hearings. Council business, item 1, consider the reappointment of Ms. Jane Etz to the COCO CRA through April 2022.
Motion to approve.
We got a motion from Councilwoman Warner, second from Deputy Mayor Goins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Item number 2, consider the approving of the interim city manager employment agreement with Matthew Farah. And you all got your stuff here. I had a brief conversation with Matt, and there was just one item that I thought would be, I need to have change on there, and that was the 165. I thought it should be around 155. I think he's doing a great job, excellent job. But I think a lot of this need to be based on, when you're looking at jobs, you base those on a lot with qualification, other stuff, not saying he's not qualified. He's been doing this for a little while, and, but I just think that, it should be around 155. The other stuff is a lot of stuff that he was already getting. And,
Where did that
I thought
number?
it was 160.
Where did that number come from?
Request.
The 155. Is that something you, as far as like the surrounding
I was
cities?
basing it on the county and just the outskirts of the county as well. Some of the cities just outside the county.
Well,
Not the
his
entire
request was
state.
for 160, so you're just saying 5,000.
Yeah, down to one, which would be like almost $40,000 less than what our previous city manager was making as an interim.
Wow. I mean, I had some issues with, I mean, I just recently discovered what our
yeah, I'm gonna
former manager
yeah.
made, and
But I mean, I'll just get mine out there, and then I let everyone else talk that had something to say. I was just basically throwing mine out there, but you have your light on, go ahead.
okay. I think the salaries were somehow based on, to some degree, well, to a large degree, on the enterprise. The enterprise has some pretty solid administration in Jack, as well as we spend a good portion on consultants. So I felt like basing the salaries for that position, upping it to that degree so that it was even, our former city manager was making almost as much as Melbourne and more than the county manager, or just about the same as the county manager. I just felt like that was really out of line. I was thinking that 150 would be more in line. Philosophically, I feel like that big a gap in your salaries is just not good for morale, not good for the organization. And I'm also looking at opportunity costs. And what we really need is some expertise right now to begin going after these dollars that are flowing and thinking about our overall emergency management, our resiliency, our sustainability. So that's my other consideration, and I was thinking along the lines of 150 as being a more fair, as certainly a $40,000 increase, and more fair as relative to other salaries.
Councilwoman Warner, any comments or?
Well, when you look at the other department directors' salaries, I think it's very important that the city manager, whether it be the city manager or the acting city manager, that there be some difference between the salaries. And I know that the salaries that we pay our directors and that we paid our city manager, those were all based on salary surveys that we had done in comparisons, and they were looked at by our administrative services department very closely, and we got charts and graphs and all kinds of other things, and it wasn't just salary, it was also, you know, combining benefits and the work, like Mrs. Cost said, the enterprise fund, and some unique challenges that COCO has versus some other cities, especially some of our neighboring cities. But looking at the other department head salaries, I agree with the mayor. I think 155 is more in line with what keeps a nice balance in those upper level salaries. So I would go with the 155.
Do 155, all the rest of the benefits inside of the contract, everybody good with everything else? As far as the monthly fees for car or travel, everything else is good with everybody, correct?
Yeah, it is with me. That's pretty much the way it's been for years with.
My understanding is it's the standard executive package, right?
Okay.
The other benefits.
That's fine.
Mayor, two other points.
Yes, go ahead.
One, in terms of opportunity costs, I also think that one of the things that this emergency, this pandemic, is showing me is that we need to bring IT up to the level of the executive team, as well as communications. I didn't see them listed.
The IT,
But going forward, and when we think about the budget next year, and we think about permanent changes, I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, but we're,
Okay.
It's an opportunity cost. Opportunity cost being you spend things on one thing, you can't spend them on the other.
no, I understand that. I just want to stay focused on this particular item right here if we can, and we can discuss that. Deputy Mayor.
Oh, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm cool with 155. I think
Councilman Bover. Oh, I'm sorry.
the city attorney need to make comments as well on the item.
Yes. Councilman Bover.
Yes.
Do you have any comments on this item?
No, sir. No, ma'am.
Yeah, and the reason I was looking at the 155, I know because I've looked at what the directors were getting, and I agree with that based on some of the stuff that's being done, and I know that I looked at Jack's salary, and I know that Jack has that massive utility systems that he's running, and but the city manager falls in line to where he's not only having to oversee some stuff there, but he's overseeing the entire city. And I know it's on an interim deal, but it's just, I think it's just appropriate for right now. And, that's something for the future. I mean, to look at these scales. But
We get an opinion from the city attorney.
yes, Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, sir. CFO. So just a general comment about the interim city manager's employment agreement. It's, it's written, as to memorialize, the temporary status, as Matt serving as interim city manager. It just lays out the temporary nature of the job. I'm recommending that, an interim agreement be approved so that the terms and conditions are clearly memorialized in writing relative to the temporary nature of the position. And I think as one council member indicated, for all intents and purposes, it's the status quo in terms of compensation package, except for the salary adjustment in subparagraph 4A and a car allowance, which is historically the city has provided the city manager. Other than that, it's in my opinion what you would expect in an interim agreement. Protect the city council's authority to make changes whenever it deems appropriate, without having to follow charter provisions regarding termination of the city manager, because this is an interim appointment. Likewise, it provides some assurances to Matt to step forward during this time period, to take on this position, knowing that in the event this position is terminated by the city manager, he may end up back in his previous position. So I recommend that an interim agreement be approved if this is council's desire.
Thank you, sir. And just the key thing is temporary, and then also I was even looking at the auto allowance. Even that's a little bit less than previously. Not much, but it's less. Councilwoman Warner.
Yeah, now that we've weighed in by the city attorney, I would like to make a motion that we approve this interim agreement with Matthew Fuhrer for a temporary employment contract with a salary of $155,000.
Second.
We got a motion from Councilwoman Warner, a second from Deputy Mayor Goins, and that's with all the other stuff as
Yes.
well. Okay.
The
included.
contract as written with a salary of $155,000.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously.
Thank you, Matt.
And just for the record, our salaries are never even number because of our payroll system. So
The
it will-
$14.40.
for rounding, yeah, like that 160 number, we didn't
Yeah.
make that up, but so it would be $155,001.60. So.
That's
Good.
All right.
that's fine.
Okay, we're going to move on to city business. Item number 1, Public Works Director, Brian.
Yes, this first item is an FDOT lap project on Dixon Boulevard to fill some missing gaps of sidewalks along Bird Plaza, kind of coming up to the railroad right-of-way. And then there's also some pedestrian improvements at that intersection as well with some new signalization. The next part is filling some gaps of sidewalk over on Forest Avenue as well. So we're requesting to award bid 20-06-COC for lap-funded sidewalk through FDOT to the lowest, most responsive bidder, Parkett Construction, for $187,095.62. Approve a resolution amending the fiscal year 20 budget and corresponding budget adjustment form number 20-057A, and approve a resolution for construction contingency in the amount of $8,833. I can answer any questions.
Thank you, sir.
I had a question.
Sure.
I have one big issue. The difference between the second or the third bidder, it's a big concern. I mean, you talking about over, $120,000 difference between them and, did y'all have a conversation with, make sure that they looked at the plans the same?
We
Or
did.
did they miss something?
So for lap projects, because they're federally funded, FDOT actually reviews the bids as well.
Mm-hmm.
And even Parkett's bids were higher than what the DOT estimates were. So they checked out as far as DOT goes, as far as the city review process. My only guess to why the other two were so high is maybe their work volume was very high right now, and they threw a number at it. We've seen that on these smaller jobs. They tend to trend a lot higher. Some of the unit prices were 1,400% higher than the average.
Well, I hope so. That's $127,000.
No, it's a big
That's a
difference.
lot to leave on the table.
It is.
That's all. That's the first thing I seen when I went and looked at the tabulation sheet. I'm like, oh, okay.
We reviewed it and
Okay.
we vetted them as best we could. We had no
Okay.
reason to reject
Yeah.
the contract
All right.
with Park.
Fair.
Councilwoman.
And Park Construction, of course, we've done a lot of business with them. They built the Fleet Building,
Correct.
and they have some project that's ongoing, the
They're working with
the
utilities.
LSP.
They're working with utilities, I believe, on some lift station projects.
Okay. So they have a lot of familiarity with
Okay.
this,
I hope
yeah.
so. More power to them. A motion to approve.
We got a motion from Deputy Mayor Goins,
Second.
second from Councilwoman Costs. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Thank you, sir. And item number 2, Finance Director.
Good morning. This agenda item is requesting approval to submit costs associated with the COVID-19 pandemic to FEMA and the Florida Division of Emergency Management for potential reimbursement, and to approve a resolution authorizing the city manager or the finance director to sign any contracts and amendments related to these reimbursements. This resolution is being requested. This is similar to when we have a hurricane event. There's a lot of documents that need to be signed, and in order to be able to process the documentation timely related to any type of reimbursements or contracts that are needed to be signed, staff is requesting council approve the finance director or the city manager to be able to execute those documents.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilwoman
I
Costs.
just want to make a comment, watching the governor's press conference the other day, that they talked about expediting the IRMA reimbursements. And of course, you've got 100 million is coming available, so good to hear we're applying for this. Motion to approve.
Motion from Councilwoman Costs, a second
Second.
from Councilwoman Warner. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? It passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to item number 3, Community Services Director. Hey,
Good morning. Staff is requesting approval of Resolution 2020-137, providing for tolling and extension of pending zoning and land use applications, agreements, resolutions, ordinances, and building permits that are set to expire before the expiration of the current local state of emergency. So with regard to building permits and development orders that have already been issued in accordance with Section 252-363 of Florida statute, provides for tolling of these approvals for the duration of the emergency declaration and for 6 months after the toll period. Therefore, for those approvals, that has been already issued. So the time for termination of the emergency declaration, the holder of the permit notifies the city in writing of its intent to exercise the tolling and extension granted under the statute. So what that means is for existing permits, they have a certain time frame, and that will be extended automatically. This request is for actual development orders, and because of the public process. For example, if any of the items need to go before Planning and Zoning Board of Adjustment, that allows us the time because of the public process, where, for example, like an annexation, you would want that public input, and people would feel that they may not be able to attend or come via internet or other kind of access. So currently, all of the staff are working, but the Development Review Committee includes one member of all of the other departments. So this would be only an extension beyond the 30 days, giving us another 30 days for if we could not get a quorum for Planning and Zoning, Board of Adjustment, or if we needed additional time because some of the staff were not available for the review. So we are not anticipating any delays, and we haven't been yet, but this is just in case.
Thank you, ma'am. What's the wishes of the council?
Motion to approve.
We got a motion from Councilwoman Warner,
Second.
second from Councilwoman Cost. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
It passes unanimously. I forgot that little delay there. We can move on to item number 9.4, which is approved task order 2020-09 with Jacobs Engineering Group. Mr. Utilities Director.
Sir, thank you. This is item number 4, to approve task order 2020-9 with Jacobs Engineering Group to conduct the corrosion control treatment analysis, study changes in the important water quality parameters resulting in the addition of CalFlow to the potable water distribution to establish new optimum water quality parameters as a permit clearance required set forth by DEP to approve the resolution amending the 2020 budget and a budget transfer form 20-055T. This item, it's related to obviously the water quality changes that we've made over the plant. We did some jar testing and some parameter testing last year, whereby what we were finding at the plant, because we do run a higher pH in our water, our filter media, the granular material gets calcified, gets covered, and when that happens, we lose efficiency in the filters, and the media has to be replaced more frequently. It's expensive, and there's a lot of other optimization things that we can be doing. So we did a study. We looked at using CalFlow, which we use on the surface water side. It's a chemical, a proprietary chemical, but it's one that we essentially use already. And we thought that we could actually add that and use it on the groundwater side to help our buffering capacity and our ability to basically change the pH and keep it higher or lower in the filters and increase it later downstream. And so we basically proposed this whole thing last year, got approval from DEP, I don't know, a number of months ago, and we finally have actually made all the physical changes. We added some piping, we've tapped physical lines so we could feed and do different things. That's all been approved by DEP, but as a part of that requirement, we're required to go back and test the water quality over time, certainly over the next year. And this is also related to lead and copper, because when we start messing with the pH of the water, people get concerned, and we all know what happened in Michigan. So we want to avoid that, and so does DEP. So they're asking us to do basically a report. Jacobs is going to go ahead and do that report for us. We still have to do lead and copper. This year is a lead and copper year, so we're doing that anyway, so we don't have to do any actual additional samples this year. But we will have to do a second set of samples in 2022. So they're asking us to do 2 years. We just have to do one report, and really what it's going to also do is, so you understand quickly, there are operational parameters in the plant which are kind of outlined in our permit, and then there's the water quality standards that everybody's familiar with, like how much chlorine we can have in the water. So this is an operational standard, and so this is why we have to test it and prove that we have the mechanisms to control the water and to prove that we can maintain safe drinking water for our constituents. So.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Cost.
So, I mean, I'm in support, but I pulled it because I was struck by, cost us $96,000 to do the CalFlow, and now it's going to cost us $94,000 to test it. But I'm glad, we're testing it. We're going to be testing it 100 sites rather than 10, which is good. So we're testing all throughout the system, right?
Yeah, there's a requirement we put out based on a number of parameters, but our conservation officer will contact usually at least 100 folks or even more sometimes, and we try to get back as many samples as we can. I think I forget what the minimum is, but the 100 is way over than what the minimum is needed. We don't always get them back, and we kind of account for that. And if we don't, then we have to go out and grab another grouping until we do get the correct minimum amount.
Okay. And so the public should be assured that, and have confidence that
Absolutely.
we're not going to be.
The whole point of this is to make sure
landfill.
that we're protecting their interests, not only at the plant, but when the water comes out downstream.
Right.
So we're going right literally to the faucet in this particular case and taking them at the people's houses.
Okay. Motion to approve.
We got a motion from Councilwoman Cost,
Second.
second from Deputy Mayor Goins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you, Jack. Item number 9.5, approved task order 2020-03, using a marine contract continuing service agreement for C&D Construction.
Yes, Council. This project is to basically dredge the relief channel. It's over at Lee Winter Park, kind of going from 520 eastbound towards our shoreline area. If you remember, at the beginning of the budget year, we moved a lot of money from contingency for a few projects, Fisk and Broadmoor, this and some others. Due to some delays with FEMA on Fisk and Broadmoor, we feel like we're not going to hit that project this year, and we want to take advantage of the funding now. And that's why we want to move some of that money into this project to do that. You can see already DOT started their portion of that. So that's another reason to hit this now. If we don't do our project in conjunction with them, we have the potential to kind of ruin what they're doing by resilting that area. So we're seeking to approve a task order 2020-03 using our marine contract CSA for C&D Construction to excavate the Harrison Street Relief Channel and desilt the adjoining double cell box culverts. Approve a resolution amending the FY20 budget BAF number 20-054-T. Approve a resolution for budget contingency in the amount of $19,765.
And this should help with some of the issues that we've seen down there during the rains that we were getting earlier last year that was causing some flooding issues down there.
We're hoping that'll be the case.
Yeah.
We are going to clean out some of the mitered ends that come into that from the village area, so those should have some increased flow through there. It'll also help with water quality with flushing from the north to south side as well. And I think overall the benefit should be pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Councilwoman Cox.
Yeah, I had a couple constituents, this is related to the project. A couple constituents called me about the removal of mangroves. I spoke briefly with Matt about it yesterday, but maybe you could explain. They took out like all the mangroves and,
Yeah, so in our
or
portion,
a lot of them.
in our area, we just finished some of the trimming by our permit. We're in year 2 of that. So we met the permit requirements. We did get a notice from FDEP. They got a complaint about how much trimming we were doing. It's a pretty significant cutback on the second year, but at this point, we're working through them to verify our compliance, and we feel like we're good.
And just so everyone understands, so you're allowed to trim mangroves so much per year.
Correct. You can do certain trimming to maintain them. Is year 2 of this, since we're cutting back a lot of mangroves, there's a point where you just can't defoliate them, and there was some confusion between DEP on what defoliation means, and we're already seeing grow back in the areas that were cut back. This project will remove mangroves permanently as well, though. 0.07 acres will be removed, pretty minor, but we're mitigating through Webster Creek Mitigation Bank up in Volusia County for 0.04. The difference between that, when St. John's reviewed the area, they didn't feel that the other 0.03 were really worth mitigating. They weren't in good health anyway.
Do we have to go to Volusia because we have no place here to mitigate?
That's the closest mitigation bank for mangroves.
But in order to do the desilting, you really don't have a choice.
Correct. For the desilting, we have to mitigate. Over
Yeah.
our storm pipes, we don't have to mitigate. We can remove those. We've held off from that. We don't want to just cut highways through them.
Okay.
Yeah. And just to point out, of course, mangroves protect the water quality as well. That's one of the reasons there are rules on them,
Correct.
cutting them back. Thank you.
But at the same time, if we don't take care of of the desilting, that's the, I guess,
Oh, yeah.
cause and
Yeah.
effect, you know?
Yeah.
There's also a benefit to, we're removing that muck, which usually has a high
Right.
nutrient level.
Right.
And so just from the flux removal alone per year, we're probably going to get a higher benefit than what we're removing in mangroves as well.
Thank you, sir.
Motion to approve.
Get a motion from Councilwoman Cost,
Second.
second from Deputy Mayor Goins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? It passes unanimously. That being said, just like to tell everyone, just be safe. You have your information, stuff in your book there. But just like to hope and pray that everyone is safe and they stay safe, and we appreciate everything that you're doing. Councilman Bover,
Yes, sir.
we're waiting on you.
Motion adjourned.
Thank you, sir. We got motion adjourned from Councilman Bover, second from Deputy Mayor Goins. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 That passes. Thank you, Anthony. Don?
Okay, everyone stay safe
Okay.
and go.